The Earth, the testing grounds for lunatics and idiots. But I'm not here to talk about that. Hello my dear friends, how's it going? I'm Arith Härger and today I'm going to talk about another Viking symbol, and I'll try to be brief, as brief as possible and go straight to the point, so I won't waste much of your time, and frankly, for my own sake, this time as well, because it is, as some of you have suggested, I do have long COVID, and these past 2 weeks I've been in the hospital and I've just come back, and right now even the strength to speak fails me. Anyway, today let us deal with the so-called Web of Wyrd, one of those ancient Viking symbols circulating all over the internet that is neither Viking nor ancient. Going straight to the point, the other day I spoke with Professor Johnny Langer. He actually came to me to help him out with this symbol, and I'm quite happy he sought my help. Johnny Langer, professor of Viking and Nordic Studies of the University of Paraíba, Brazil, and editor-in-chief of Scandia, Journal of Medieval Norse Studies. Thank you for your trust, Professor. Now, it would seem the symbol in question appeared in the TV series Vikings Valhalla quite recently. It's a series I haven't watched much, nor do I have any interest in it, to be perfectly clear. Well, the symbol is better known by the name of Web of Wyrd, sometimes also as Skuld's Net, although the former is better known and more widespread. This symbol in the series is drawn in the sand at a certain point on an episode, and also appears carved into a large stone inside a temple in Mimisbrunnr, according to my patrons. A very popular symbol these days, and you can buy lots of clothes, pendants, and a huge amount of merchandise with this symbol. But as you might have guessed by now, this is not really a symbol that existed in the Viking Age or any previous age, and would take almost 1,000 years after the so-called Viking Age to actually come into being. Therefore, the so-called Web of Wyrd is not a symbol of the pre-Christian Scandinavian religiosity. There are no representations, paintings, sculptures, carvings, or any kind of artifacts and jewelry with this form, with this symbol on them. Neither in the Viking Age nor even in the Renaissance grimoires. It could be from that period, but it isn't. The so-called Galdrastafir, Icelandic magic staves. It is actually a contemporary symbol, initially created by occultists and later on popularized on esoteric websites, so all over the internet. Just so you know, and to put it into perspective, I'm older than this symbol. The first authors to use this geometric shape were Jan Vries and Graham Butcher, both in the 1990s. The symbol was created by interpreting different sources of Norse mythology, where we have both religious importance of the number 3 and 9, of which here I spoke in the previous video, and as much as the idea of the Norns and the Valkyries, the Valkyriur, that weave the destiny of a person or human destiny being intertwined with divine connotations. The symbol in question is an attempt by our very modern and very, very recent society to understand the pre-Christian beliefs of the Norse and materialize them in visual forms, expressing a possible spiritual connection between the past and the present. I personally don't see any harm in this. Throughout human history, we have been creating symbologies to express all kinds of knowledge. And when it comes to religion, spirituality, and magic, we have never really stopped creating symbols to not only express ourselves in these fields, but also to convey an idea, a type of knowledge. If it was always a normal and right thing for our ancestors to do, why should we stop now? Those here on this channel who practice some form of traditional folk magic, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, as we continue to create symbologies to better understand and connect with our magical practices, our crafts. which makes it easier to remember a type of knowledge and even to pass it on to others. Really, the only problem here, in my opinion, of course, is claiming that the symbol called the Web of Wyrd is an Old Norse and pre-Christian symbol, when it is not. It is important to be able to distinguish between temporal realities and between historical contexts. So again, it's a modern symbol, first created in the 1990s. There is nothing wrong with creating a new symbol as we continue to express our ideas in a visual manner, but it is useful to know the truth, as many people unfortunately have been misled regarding the history and context of this symbol and what it means. As many people tattoo this symbol, for instance, because they think it is something that is not, clearly, and spend an awful lot of money with various companies that sell this symbol on merchandise and other symbols, like something that is Nordic authentic from a very important religious past, etc., etc. Now, to be more precise, the first form of this symbol appears, as I shall place here on the screen, thus appearing in the book by German occultist Jan Fries, the book called Hellrunnar, a manual of rune magic, first published in the mid-1990s. I've already talked about this esoteric book here on this channel. I even did a book review. I personally like this book from an esoteric perspective, of course. The symbol appears, as you can see, on the cover of the book and a few other times throughout the book, a few other pages, right here, an example. And on no occasion does the author say anything about the symbol and never explains its meaning, mind you. Later on, author Graham Butcher also features this symbol in his book Stave, the fighting system of Northern Europe, who is the only author who first gives us a name for this symbol, and he called it the web. Simply that, just that. I don't have this book with me, but I remember well reading it. I loaned this book to someone over a decade ago, and frankly, I miss neither the person nor this book. Well, according to Butcher, the concept of this symbol is a web which holds everything together, be that in space or time or both. To him, it represents the building blocks of the universe itself. And he also stated that the symbol itself contains all the runes. You can draw each rune within this symbol, which is an idea that remains strong to this day, actually. In relation to the name later on given to this symbol as the Web of Wyrd, well, it is not possible to know where this idea originated or from whom, but it was certainly after the mid-1990s, possibly originated in British occult context, giving it an Anglo-Saxon meaning, the word word, from Old English meaning roughly fate, broadly fate, so the web of fate, making that previous connection to the Norns and the Valkyries or the Valkyriur as weavers of fate and the idea of an intertwined universe. And finally, there is a more simplified and recent design for this symbol, which I'll put it here on the screen, which is the most recent iconographic representation from the 2000s onwards, and far more popular among modern hidden communities on the internet. So, once again, we have a symbol which is a modern development, attaching it to both modern interpretations as well as to a body of ideas from sources of Germanic and Old Norse myths and religiosity and belief systems. Again, personally, I see nothing wrong in the continuation of creating and developing symbols. It is important to express ourselves in such a way. After all, we are creative and imaginative beings, and it is important to continue to fabricate means of transmission of knowledge in a more succinct and artistic form, because that is part of the mechanisms that help us to preserve knowledge and concepts and ideas and to establish communication with one another and pass on this type of information. Well, either through the lack of words or a fail to understand languages, humans communicate with symbols, which may bring very positive outcomes if all else fails. And on creating symbols, if it was right for our ancestors to do such things, why shouldn't it be for us right now? Why should we stop? Our creativity and imagination did not stop, and we should indeed continue to feed it, because those are important human factors that help in communication. However, obviously, it is important to be aware of the truth, because without a doubt there's plenty of people taking advantage of someone's ignorance on a given subject, and the truth help us to protect ourselves against the several intertwined systems of untruth. I hope this video was useful. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video, hopefully, if I'm still alive. And as always, tack för idag. Thanks for today. Obrigado por hoje. Until we meet again, my dear friends.